over here with an all-star panel assembled for yet another one of our famous Dating on the Left episodes. The first one we did was all women. The second one was all men. And this is our first co-ed Dating on the Left panel. You were just hearing Olayemi, friend favorite of the podcast, fan favorite, I should say, and Jason Myles going back and forth a little bit. Jason,
yes.
Let's start with you. Obviously, people know you from This Is Revolution podcast, and you are also a columnist at Sublimation Magazine.
Yep.
Ole, you're a movement lawyer. You are sometimes guest host at The Hill. You have a number of podcasts and such, which we'll introduce at the end. We are joined by Katie Halper, longtime friend of the show, hosted the Katie Halper Show, co-host of Useful Idiots podcast, one of my never missed podcasts, an FD Signifier, a prolific YouTube essayist who is returning to the show. All right, let's get back into it. Jason, you said you have some tea for us about what not
about
to do.
About my horrible life on these dating apps?
Tell us about it.
My married life?
Well, first let me ask you this.
Huh?
Did it have anything to do, did politics at all? I want to try for a brief moment of time to try to keep this rooted at all to anything even vaguely related to politics and the topic of this podcast. Did politics and how you guys saw the world have anything to do with your relationships and potentially your last marriage?
No, we actually saw the world extremely similarly. Even though we came from different worlds. I was married the first time when I was really young. I married at like 21, had all these kids and did all the stupid things you're supposed to do. And then that fell apart and I met a woman in Vegas, which, that's where you're supposed to meet your second wife. And then I told her, because she had done music too. And I told her the true story. I said, if you come with me to the Bay Area, we can hold hands and play music all over the world. And we did. We did for 7 years. We played music all over the world. We had a wonderful wedding ceremony in the forest in England. And she ended up having a bit of a nervous breakdown and took off. And I came home and everything was gone. And then, and I've been, navigating the world a little. So I have trust issues. I have
right. Yeah. Trauma. I was like, what in the old Black Lifetime movie? What in the
Crazy Life? Can we give room though for how beautiful that is?
I'll tell you the truth. Here's the true story.
Here's the lawyer in me knew that was a movie. See, you say that's beautiful, but the lawyer in me was like, this is gonna end how this begun. Doing wild, silly shit. You don't know.
I will tell you a true. I will tell you a true story, and I'll shut up. So I was devastated, right? Who wouldn't be? There was a shock. We were planning a tour of Southeast Asia, and we had a record coming out. It was not what I thought was going to happen, and I lived in this music recording warehouse in West Oakland, and Boots Riley was there, getting ready to do "Sorry to Bother You." And that's where a lot of the stuff was built out where I lived. And so I know Boots. And so I walk out and I see him. And he always would introduce me. Oh, this is Jason. He's in a band with his wife. And they do this crazy music. And And he does the introduction, right? And I go, Boots, she left. And he goes, how long were you together? I said 7 years. He goes, well, you can say for 7 years you did something that most people will never get a chance to do. And that's kind of how I look at it at this point in my life.
Yeah.
That's dope. If I could, it is, well, I don't know. I want to throw off I'm just inspired by that story, but I don't want to throw off the flow of things.
Did you have closure?
No, it's not closure at all.
No, it's not. I don't know if there was closure.
Oh, you want to hear the whole story?
Did you ever have?
Yeah.
You want to hear
Okay, you guys are really.
How long did it take for to get in touch? Ooh, I'm invested.
You want? Now we got Katie.
I have a story that you just inspired me to tell a story after this. Okay, because actually this one becomes
Anyway,
Anyway,
you want to hear the sad truth?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Tell us.
She erased her
Yeah.
search history on every device except for an iPad that we shared. And I was selling an amplifier on eBay, and I was like, I saw ukuleles for sale. I was like, well, fuck, I didn't buy any ukuleles, and I exited out of it. I was like, oh, this isn't my account. And I exited out of the account and her address showed up on the exit screen. And I stared at it for an hour and I wrote it down. I exited out of it. And I bought plane tickets 3 times before I finally went to go see her. And we hadn't really been in contact. I had no idea what I was going to go do. So I sent her a message. I was like, I got you a present. It's on its way. This is the day it's going to get delivered. I am not making this up. As the cab pulled up, a UPS truck had pulled up to her neighbor's house. So she came out and the UPS truck goes away. And then I'm sitting there. I got her a guitar because we played crazy music. And so she looks at me, she goes, I fucking knew you were going to do this shit. So we had I was only there for a day. And we spent one day and she was, sad and upset. And I just went home and we never saw each other.
I'm a little afraid to ask why she was so unhappy to see you. Because the woman in me I gotta say, my woman in me, my instincts are to side with her and say there must have been a reason for her to leave so suddenly. Yeah. What did you do?
No.
Right?
We didn't want to hear from you.
Shit, right?
It's giving me an episode out of Girls. First of all, like what on no, ain't it giving that, right? Like just what in the like first of all, so you go.
Also,
I'm still blown at the movie.
Hawaii.
How far was that? What kind of plane?
This is like forgetting Sarah Marshall Part 2 like Black Edition.
Yeah. Why any of us here? This should have been you and Jason.
I feel like
telling
when
this
you've been watching
story.
something for a season and they finally go get justice and then they go be nice to the person. What you mean? Spent a day and she was sad. Like you ain't cussed her out. You ain't get a monologue up. You bought her a guitar. She left you after 7 years. And you bought her a gift and paid for your plane ticket and went there. Where's the justice?
Okay, but Jason, let me answer me this. Did you have a sense? Was it completely a surprise to you when she left, or had there been issues?
It was a surprise to everyone. And keep in mind, this isn't a relationship like we all have personal relationships. I'm in a band with this woman, and we weren't famous, but people knew us, and it was just us. So when the breakup happened, you're flooded with messages. Oh my God, I can't believe you guys broke up. Yeah. Oh my God, you guys are my favorite couple. And I'm like, oh, she's my favorite couple.
Okay, so Jason, one more question, because I want to get back to Olay's initial reaction, which was, I knew this was going to go left. And it seems like, Olay, tell me if I'm wrong, the kind of romantic, very water sign way that Jason was describing what was up with him. Oh, we fell in love. We joined this bit. We had this 7 years of bliss. It was all very... Are you a water sign? I see you nodding. What's your sign, Jason?
I'm a Leo. Me and your birthdays are days apart.
What's the rest of your big 3? Because me and Bria Leos, and I feel like we both sense trouble afoot. So what's your other 2? What's in your big 3? What's your moon sign? What's your rising? That's what I need to know.
I don't know any of that. My birthday is August 19th.
Oh, you're a little cussy.
What time? Find out what time you were born for me when you go.
It was 11. I was born at 11. My mom told me I was 11:50.
You got to download the CoStar app. Oh, Olay's about to do your chart. Olay's got a notepad.
11:50. 11:50 p.m. August 19th. What year?
PM.
1977. 1977.
Okay, y'all proceed. Talking.
Oh, we glitched.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let me come to you, Katie, because Katie, you said you had a story.
Then I want mine done too.
Jermaine,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm done. There's nothing.
Do you feel like you told everything, Jason, or is there anything else you want to share about it?
Here.
All right. So I had this isn't, in terms of being left in a surprising way, this wasn't as surprising, but it was so dickish. Oh my God. So I was with a guy long distance for a year, and he was going to moving to New York, and he was going to move in with me. And we had like one fight where he expressed some doubt, and I was like, well, or reservations or some issues that he thought we had. And I was like, well, I'm not going to push you. Had this happened to me now, I would have handled it differently. But I was basically like, well, if you think we should break up, okay, I can't force you to not break up. But for me, it's like, we've never talked about any problems, so maybe we should try to work on these issues first. And he was like, you're right, I'm asking you to read my mind, blah, 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 blah. And then he comes to visit me. We spend like, I don't know, a couple days together. He's leaving, and on his way out, I said to him, is everything okay? Because I know you keep things inside. And he even jokes, he's like a sponge. He does that. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, everything's all right. Everything's all right. And then he goes home. He flies back to the Midwest. And I'm trying to reach him. And he doesn't respond. And this was so painful because I remember seeing he was like tweeting. So I knew he was, active. And then the next morning I got an email. It said, everything is not all right. That was the subject line. And it's like, I'm not happy. He didn't say one nice thing about it. He just told me he was breaking up with me, and he's a lawyer, and you'll know this will be indicated shortly because he goes, I'm breaking up with you. This is my final decision, and it's non-negotiable. And then I wrote, like, I have to say, I'm kind of impressed because I didn't reach out to him because it's like, once you do something, once you go a certain length of dickishness, it's like I want to protect myself from that person. Like I didn't want to hear from him because I just had no trust. Like I just didn't trust him as having any kind of like, as being a good person, like I really thought he was a good person. And once he did that, it was just like, no, he's not. So I waited a month and I said, I'm not trying to get back together with you. I would like to have a more, mature discussion. We have overlapping worlds and mutual friends, which was true. And we're going to both be in New York City. And I'm sure we'll see each other. And he writes back, I'm no longer moving to New York. I have nothing else to say. Best of luck.
Best of luck.
And then the cheap bastard asshole. And by the way, I didn't cheat on him. I didn't call his mom a name or anything.
How long had you guys been dating?
11 months. Okay. Although I should have called his mom a name. But then he's so cheap. He didn't even send me back. I was like, can you send me my like workout sneakers and my pants or whatever? And he didn't even send that back to me. And then now at that point we were like in the same political sphere.
I'm about to figure it out because he's a lawyer.
I'll tell you if you bleep it out.
Will you bleep it out?
Will you beep it out?
You don't have to tell you. You don't have to tell
but she said she will as long as you bleep it out.
Will you bleep it out?
Briahna, do
no,
that,
I want to tell you. I want to tell you.
All right,
I really think she should tell us.
Don't trust her, Katie.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know who this is, but I want to know what it is.
Yeah, but do I even know this person?
Bleep it out. You promise? All right.
It was Dan Jones.
No. No. He founded
What's that?
Which was this black liberal like back then.
Oh shit, it was Van Jones.
Was it Eddie Glaude?
No. I wish. No.
What do you look like? What do you look like?
Listen,
what do you look like?
I got that to run over you.
I
got to research it immediately.
What do you look like?
What do you look like? What do you look like? What do you look like?
Is this him in the middle?
How would you? What does he look like? Oh yeah, that's the trio. Him. He lost a bunch of weight though, but that was him. Him.
Oh, Katie.
How did accent come out? Right
No,
there?
you don't have to look at it. You're judging me for that. You gotta look at it more.
It's confusion as to why you didn't know who the fuck you were in this story.
Katie.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, he looked better than he looked in that photo when I met him.
He may not be photogenic.
I feel like
he's not particularly photogenic.
He's tall.
Yeah. He is tall.
He was a lawyer.
When I said like, I don't mean that like he lost a bunch of.
Fix your face.
Like he himself, I think part of the issue was he lost a bunch of weight, and I think he thought he was like hot shit. Now he's a yes. He turned into an asshole.
So let's talk about this a little bit.
Amanda again. Bleep out this, but that was him with because they all were given birth to at this. I'm gonna have to bleep out a lot of this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Katie, that's why I kind of want to stop you.
Right.
I don't want
this
this whole
motherfucker
section to be bleeped. You're giving way too much information. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So, but wait a minute. Hold up. You raised something interesting there. Jason, I think it was, you started saying, well, at least he's tall, at least he's a lawyer. You were listing characteristics that many women find to be appealing. They're characteristics that kind of, the gestalt of which broadly in public discourse are considered to be attributes for men when women are out on the dating market. Yeah. Something that came up on the male edition of the Bad Faith dating episode was that the men that I talked to on that show didn't seem to have much in the way for attributes.
You was talking to Bert.
That they were looking from women at all.
Birch and Cooper.
Who's Bert?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was.
That's my boy, Bree.
No shade, no disrespect. But I kept asking them, like, do they? I was like, do their politics matter? Does their job matter? Does anything matter? And
none of that matter. It didn't matter enough from your perspective. Like, I feel like that had to matter.
I don't want to mischaracterize what they said. I mean, they said some things, like, I think maybe being a good person or nice or whatever, which, of course, is very important and meaningful. But I felt like I was in a difficult position as a leftist because I obviously don't think that one career is more meritorious than the other, or it infers more value to you as a human being or anything like that. But there was this notable gap between the women episode, which, Olay, if you recall, was very, very different. We had a bunch of people on the panel who were lawyers and successful podcasters and journalists, and they were looking for some kind of like economic parity maybe, or at least professional parity, or ability to kind of like engage intellectually in a conversation, which may or may not be evidenced by a certain level of education. And none of that came up during the men's panel. So I want to put to you two gentlemen what you make of that and what you're kind of looking for when you're out there dating, and whether or not politics at all plays a role. Yeah, FD, let's hear from you first, because for the people who don't know, you're the one of us who's happily married.
Yes.
You're our success story.
Maybe can I even things out a little bit between me? Like Jason and Katie are like side by side with me, and I just feel like I need to just expand. So I just think I'm very lucky. I met my wife in undergrad.
Oh wow.
And we grew up together. I was 21, she was 19, and we grew into adults. And so like, of course our politics have mimicked each other over the years. Of course our value systems have developed side by side. Like we met as a Southern Baptist. She was a Southern Baptist and I was essentially a Sunni Muslim. And so that was interesting. And now we're both like agnostic. So like we
met in the middle.
We met in the middle. And so like, we had some breakups, we've had some rough moments, but like I don't wish I could relate actually. I rebuke that.
Don't.
I empathize with the situations that y'all are speaking on. That said, to kind of go back to what you were just getting at, Briahna, political affiliation meant something to me. And like, I don't know what the word I want to use is, but like at the time, like the potential of a mate meant something. Like I desired to meet a woman who I thought was going to, I've never been invested in patriarchal performance of gender, right? I've never been invested in like I want me a wife and 5 kids and I want to go off and work myself to death while she raised those kids to death. And we never get to have big fun with each other. And, I never get, like all that stuff. Like, so I was never like, so I was immediately going to be, more interested and attracted to women who were more progressive and less traditional. But then ironically, we've developed a lot of traditional habits over the years, just out of the nature of the environment we live in. But like, had I met a more conservative, a Southern Baptist who maybe was more of a pew kid, then it wouldn't have worked. It may not have worked. And economically, I went immediately into saving the world via education and all kinds of other squishy things, and she went into corporate America, and that was important because her corporate America checks early on meant all the difference in our lifestyle versus me trying to go visit kids in jail and
not quite as profitable.
Not quite as profitable. And so like, to maybe like, and I'll see what Jason feels about this. I think there's, regardless of how your politics around gender align, the reality is that there's only a certain amount of men of a particular economic status. And much like we're alluding to with Katie's former guy, men know this too. And so men will, become, I'm going to be nice and say overly selective, you know, or you know, careless with how they move because they feel like, you know, they're a commodity and that allows them a certain level of I don't know. I don't want to call it freedom. It's freedom, but it's not like a good type of freedom.
They got options. You're saying that they feel like they have options.
They can manipulate the market,
right?
So to speak. And so when you get women who are of high academic and economic status, and you know you're vying for a select group of men, and a lot of them tend to be shitty. So yeah, like that conversation might be a little more productive versus men. It's like, hey, she like me, I like her. We got a place to live. She shower, I shower. We all good, you know.
Ole, I'm seeing a face. You're someone who's out there also visiting kids in jail because you're a public defender. You have a job that requires a lot of credentialing and academic achievement at the same time that it doesn't pay you nearly as much as it should, given how hard you work and how important the work you do is. I say this as a serial public defender dating. You know, everybody knows listen to this podcast. Know your girl loves to date a public defender. That is my bread and butter. That is my favorite. So no disrespect, that's like said out of love and admiration for what you do. So how do you look at this? What is it like for you to be 29. A single? You're probably the youngest one here, right? How old are you?
And I'll be 30 in July.
So you're just a child out here in these streets. Your whole life is ahead of you.
Thank you.
So what's July too? I'm Cancer.
Yeah, you're on the other side of that split.
What am I, Ola? I'm curious.
The two of y'all, you and Katie, give Hufflepuff like yeah, some nice.
You think he's a water sign?
What's your sign?
I don't know the nature of the signs, but I am a Hufflepuff, Gemini.
He's a Gemini.
And my wife is an Aquarius, and I know the only thing I know about Zodiac.
Outcast best album, Aquemini, dude.
Is Gemini's and Aquarius.
You're both air signs.
Outcast best album.
Two air signs, 2 fire signs, and a water sign on this panel. Okay, I can sense that vibration. So Ole, tell me what you think of what FD is saying about men's the perception that they can be selective and not necessarily valuing things like your professional achievement. I mean, do you feel that when you're out there? Like, what does the marketplace feel like for you?
Okay, so I don't spend much of my time in the dating marketplace that much these days. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't really quite have the time. I wish I had the time, but I don't have the time. I find that career achievement for a Black woman negatively impacts you on the dating. and honestly, and that's not even just me saying it. Men often like volunteer me opinions. Like I get it online, it's in my DMs, etc. People are just constantly telling me, like literally moments after I'm congratulated on some perceived success, it's like, oh, that's gonna be, I know men are gonna find like the men in my life, my male friends, my male mentors just volunteer me what the negative perception is. So it's not me saying it. No one be like, oh, that's it, y'all just think that someone's intimidated. Nope, it's not me saying it. The men are saying it. It's not, I'm just putting it out there. So I think in my case, and I'm not a day-to-day PD anymore. I have I'm in the nonprofit industrial complex. So I know, honestly, that being said, the weight of my own career, I think, harms me to some degree. But that being said, I've never personally, I don't have any problem getting men. Like I have a really beautiful dating pool. I'm not gonna lie.
I bet you do.
You know what I mean? Yeah, my dating pool is beautiful. I'm not gonna hold you. Like it's commensurate to thine own work.
You cannot keep a Leo down. You cannot.
No, I will say, like, so that being said, I mean, the men in my life, they are, all I really look for is like, for me, I don't expect, and I don't deal with men in a way that is for men to do anything for me. So it's like, if I want a man, or I date, I think most people, and something that's just not said about the dating, when people talk about dating in general, is that most people date within their own socioeconomic class. That's just the truth. You know, people will get mad when someone says, right, if I say, oh, I only dated lawyers, people would go get mad, but it's like, but that's not me asking for something that is not what I'm bringing to the table. If I said I only wanted to date a 6-figure man, it's because I make 6 figures. It's not because, you know what I'm saying? So it's not because I would want something from him. It's because I want the ability for him to be stable and taking care of himself. Because to me, a relationship is the decision to take on someone else's stress in addition to yours. I care about you, so what's going on in your life now affects me. So if you are struggling, now I have a struggle to adopt too. I have other issues, so that is something that's relevant. But like I said, most of the time, it's not an actual thing that comes up because you date within your own socioeconomic class. So I say that.
Jason,
and most
did I hear you say think for yourself? Speak for yourself.
I mean,
you said you don't date within your socioeconomic.
No, I said most of the time. Obviously,
no, Jason.
Of course,
we want to hear about Jason.
You could call this show, and then Jason was wilding, like and featuring and. I just want Katie to know that I'm 5'10", and I.
Can I say real quick?
Yeah.
Just to kind of amplify something Ola was saying, because I don't want to be misconstrued, because I know the Manosphere niggas are going to watch this whenever it comes out, because I'm their favorite person. It's as Ola was alluding to, it's a myth, like the whole trophy wife thing, like that is not, supported by data and research. As she put it, most people date within their own economic bracket, with their own educational bracket. The thing is, and this is why the Manosphere stuff is so insidious, when you hear when you have these 21-year-old juniors in college, they're trying to become high value men, in part because they feel like they're becoming of a higher status will make them give them a certain type of power, unfair advantage, even if you will, in the dating market for women of that same bracket. And I do think, at least according to the information I know, that does bear out to be true somewhat for Black women, because if you want to date exclusively Black men, you want to date exclusively Black men of a select economic bracket, you are choosing from a smaller pool than any other race of men, in which gives those men an exorbitant amount of power. And then also ironically makes the niggas in the Manosphere that are truck drivers, these good old roundaway dudes, really bitter about it, in a way. But instead of taking that bitterness and addressing the class discrepancy there, they're like, well, if these women would just submit and stop getting all educated.
Like they go the Trump route instead of the Bernie route.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, this is the Tyler Perry problem. This is the problem where in this fantasy world, there are all of these bus drivers who look like Shamar Moore, and who also are so generous and want to take care of all of your kids and clean up around the house while wearing a wife beater.
And never want to have sex with you. This
Briahna,
is Tyler Perry
describing me. I'm always wearing a wife beater, cleaning up around the house.
My thing is, I have never ever had an expectation that one of my partners is gonna make more than me or even as much as me, because that's almost never happened. And the thing is, it's just are you gonna be nice? What other things are there that people?
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, what other kinds of things can people offer? Do you look like Shamar Moore? Are you good at cooking and cleaning around the house? Do you amplify my life in some other way other than money? I'm open to all kinds of options. Are you just kind and nice and generous with your time? But the problem is, in my experience, I have done the thing. I think on one of these episodes I said, well, I'm in my trophy wife phase. I'm happy to date someone younger who's less accomplished, just looks nice and has a nice smile, and we can just try that. But the thing is, those guys also think they're too good for you.
Really?
I find that most men, the minute you're, depending on what kind of woman you present as and what expectation they have for you, the moment you're nice to them, they start, moving like they're better than you. In general, that. Yeah, generally. I think
I'm about to use the N-word.
I used to think
it depends on what you're like. A woman like me, I'm stereotyped. I've even seen it in YouTube comments where I've seen this. I'm very stereotyped. This is gonna be a lot of attitude and campaigning and blah blah and run a relationship. I don't run nothing. Okay, I'm tired. First of all, I don't run on with men. I am very the same level of energy and uplift and nice I am about my own self as I am with my friends and the men in my life. I'm nice, I'm sweet, and no one is expecting that. It's false advertising. So I find that anybody, it doesn't matter what they are, you know what I mean? If you like a man, he will start moving a little wonky. I find that men like bad treatment.
Why are you so surprised by that, Jason? Go ahead, Katie.
Well, I used to think that you could find a man who was high. Basically, I used to think that I could find a man who was at my level in terms of like career, who was an asshole, or I could find a nice guy who was not on my level.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think it was like one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that there are some power dynamics, as we've all been referring to. But then you also find people who, I mean, I have found both. I've found men who are both. I think that what I'm saying is still true in terms of like overall trends, but you just have to work harder to find the ones who are both nice.
Katie.
And
I found that my dating has
achieving.
gotten better as I've gotten older. Honestly, like it's less like, you know, in my younger 20s, you're always dating a bunch of people doing a bunch of foolishness, running around the place.
Speak
Like
it's
Are you?
okay, for me.
Ole, did you ever think that you would meet someone in school like FD did? That was always how I thought it was going to go. My parents met in college. I had a college boyfriend that I dated for about 5 years.
Would you like to hear about my college or law school relationship? Please pick one.
Why do you think that those didn't work out?
Let me get my tea.
My law school ex-boyfriend was the Antichrist, honestly.
Stop!
No, he's a terrible man.
Was it a white dude?
You know, and God awful.
A white
And the
Antichrist.
truth comes. I'm off.
Jason, get the tea while you out, man. Get the tea.
And let me just be clear. Let me make sure I state this before anybody. I just want to have this as a disclaimer.
I'm about to say the N-word again.
I have dated interracially in the past, and I do not do it anymore. I have
Because
no
of that one white
problem with it
dude?
for
You let that one
everybody
white
else.
dude fuck it up?
It is no.
It was
No,
several white
No,
dudes?
first of all, it's not one, but also this was enough. If I tell you the story, it's enough. Like this was enough. The man was a demon. I'm not even talking to fucking
A
big
white
deal.
demon.
Let me just tell you.
Are you in the nation?
Not a white devil.
Did he make you become?
Yeah.
Jason, stop. I need to hear this. I need to hear this. Don't interrupt
MOI.
me.
The man
MOI.
was awful. Like, you don't, and when I look back on it, he hated my fucking guts. I don't know why. He just wouldn't go ahead and free himself. Like, anyway, it was on and off for 4 years, right? So law school and the year after. I'm just gonna start from my 25th birthday and take you to the end. I'm not gonna start from all the gates. Let me just give you how we break up, or it was the last breakup before we get back together, and he does the ultimate sins. So this years of doing all kind of mess. On my 25th birthday, this is like a few days after we take the bar. We take the bar together. He tells me, get dressed up or whatever. He picks me up. He hands me, 25th birthday, he hands me a gift bag. And I open the gift bag and I pull it out. And it is a stuffed, what I believe to be a stuffed Peppa Pig, like the ones they sell by the...
I love pigs.
Peppa Pig, like the children's toy, like that they sell in Walgreens by the cash register. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She may not, but I do.
Yeah, I know.
No, yeah. She's a British accent.
Yeah, Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
She can't whistle.
And I look at it, right?
That's
And I look at it and I realize, like, first, and I didn't realize it then, and I'm just gonna tell you all now, right? I believe it's Peppa Pig at the time. It's not even Peppa Pig. It's George Pig. It's a supporting cast member with an $11.99 tag on it, right? So I look at him, and you don't understand.
He didn't even take the tag off?
He bought it on the fucking way to my
Sure he
house.
wasn't black?
I threw it in the bag. Yeah.
Stop, Jason!
I will say, why? Like, if you're gonna date
him.
white, if you
Was
gonna
he
date
white?
Why your white dude do
Oh,
nigga
no, I
shit?
don't-
that you can't get from around the way, brother. Like,
I'm with.
Please tell me he
FD on
wasn't
that.
Jewish.
Oh,
Please
he
tell me he
gotta
wasn't
be
Jewish.
Jewish.
Was
He
he
was
Jewish?
Jewish. He was Jewish.
Damn.
He was Jewish.
Damn.
Yes, he was Jewish. Yes,
He
he was
did
Jewish.
us
But let me tell you
bad.
something.
He did us
I'm gonna just say
dirty.
this to y'all right
Wow.
now. The way he's doing
Can't
in
believe he
life
did
right
that.
now, like truly, I've asked God to forgive him, because the way God has put his foot on that man's neck and not letting off, like, I'll tell you, like, the story's gonna go tragically anyway. So I turn to him and I say,
I like pigs.
why would you get me Peppa Pig? And he looked in my 25-year-old eyes and said, because you like Peppa Pig. So I ride He riding the way on silence, the way I believe is the destination. I remind you, told me get dressed up, right? Takes me to his brother's house.
Wait, but do you like Peppa Pig? I need to know.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, Katie. No, I don't.
He was just lying.
Half black?
He hates me. No.
Stop, Jason! I swear to God.
I'm telling you, that's why we need to stop the swirl propaganda on Twitter. People, I be seeing them talking like they believe. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but a white man will beat your soul in. Okay, anyhow.
Okay, but Ole, was he generally speaking in the context of a relationship a bad gift giver, a thoughtless person?
No, he was an awful human being.
That's not a bad gift giver.
Like, he was an awful.
Now I really want to find you a nice Jewish boyfriend to redeem.
No, ma'am.
There's a Jewish dude just walked in my house right now.
My men are nice. I don't want no part.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me tell you what he ultimately did. Let me tell you what he ultimately did. So after this story ends, he doesn't take me. Anyway, he takes me to his brother's house where he proceeds to watch everything that I hate. He knows I hate, that I would hate from my house. Yes, his brother's house. Orders takeout to his brother. Yes. And then he wakes up first thing in the morning, like leaves my apartment, like he's got to go drive his boys to the beach. Then he moves.
Was he trying to get you to break up with him?
Girl, he hates me. So I say break up with him. He hates me. So of course, I do break up with him. Cool. He goes away to the boonies where he goes to go do this whack ass clerkship job, right? So he contacts me after however many months. He's like, I'm depressed. I love you. My whatever. All my career. This is the next thing is going terrible. I'm messing it up. Blah, 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 blah. This is the next thing. So he flies to New York City for a week to spend a week with me while we're supposed to go get sworn in, right?
It has a life-size Porky Pig stuffed animal for you.
Listen. The man, when I look, I'm in my office, my classmate who graduated with us walks into my office and she was like, literally says nothing. She just walks in. She was like, hey, did you see his new girlfriend? I was like, excuse me, what? What are you saying to me? She's like, yeah, like, hey, did you see? I go, and she goes and shows me, like online, shows me a woman he done flew in from the boonies where he was, whatever. Yeah,
how
running
soon
around
after
in New York City that week. Like in the week of we discussed it,
So he's unwell.
Yes. So yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, a demon, night demon.
It feels like I have been in the situation before where someone clearly wants to be out of the relationship, but they don't have the guts to actually end it.
No, the relationship is over. No guts. We use this all the time. It could end. He does evil. You don't understand. He's an evil, insidious man. I could tell you a billion different things. Right
so,
after that,
well, let me ask you this:
to marry the girl. I message. I see it. I message her and I say, hey, I'm sure you don't know about me because this is the first I'm learning of you. I'm gonna let you know right now. And when I'm from this state, cool, block my name. I message him and I'll tell you know what? I'll tell y'all what I said to him. I'll tell y'all exactly what I said to him because it's the last thing I ever said to him. 4 years. I'm gonna let you know I never said a motherfucking word. I don't know nothing about Katie's side of July. I'm gonna tell you what I said to that man. Like, I'm gonna tell y'all right now. Listen, I said, I'm not even going to run on with you because I think so little of you now, but I'm just giving you a heads up that I both know about your girlfriend and I informed of your trifling ass. Let this be known. Let this be known. No matter how depressed you ever get again, no matter when you next feel like a shitty person, no matter how poorly you continue to perform in your job, no matter what comes of your relationship with your friends and family, no matter if you ever get cancer again, no matter what ill befalls you, I will never care. Don't speak to me again in this life. I will never forgive you, and you deserve all the self-loathing you feel. And if you're lucky, old girl isn't so blessed to find a better man, and she stays with you, and y'all can grow old in misery together. You're really as small of a man as you always felt you are, and it's a damn shame I ever wasted energy trying to convince you otherwise. I see why you say you have no one in the world you can be 100% open with, because who could ever love and accept what you really are? Because when it really boils down to it, you really are weak as fuck. And I have never spoke.
And you got a little dick.
Wow.
Yes.
I was waiting for that.
Let's not go there. Let's not even go there.
By the way, I just want to say one thing, just to wrap up my thing, is that he wound up marrying I don't know how to say this. Maybe it's not like I looked at the person he wound up marrying and was like, oh, he upgraded. I'll just say that there was not an upgrade. And I got to say, we were on a listserv together, and he and I bonded talking about politics. Like, we were both Obama supporters. I was much more skeptical. I was like, he's not going to save the world, but he's way better than Clinton. So let's hustle. This was like, I've moved a lot politically from then. He hasn't though. So he's still there. And I remember we were on this listserv together, and someone sent out an article featuring a bunch of CNN did an article. It's like, these Bernie supporters lost it. And it included a tweet from me. And I remember he wrote back to the whole list. He's like, Bernie dead enders are going to Bernie dead end. And I was like, I'm so happy we're not together. Because,
it feels like both what you are saying, Katie, and what Ole is kind of saying or expressing is the kind of emotional response when you feel like maybe you were even compromising yourself to be in this relationship a little bit, and the other person still feels like they can go off and do better. And then you see who they're with eventually. And it's like, why? And the reason that it makes one so angry, I'll speak for myself, Ole, but I've had similar feelings of frustration once I see who the person I was once with is now with. I was previously engaged. I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. And I found out that he was back with his ex, who had dated for 7 years before me, by logging into our Airbnb account and seeing that he had switched his picture from our picture to their picture. And I'll just say that there was nothing I would aspire to be in her.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But that doesn't matter, right? I was less frustrated. I was it's not me.
Because at a certain point it's hurtful, because you're going through life. I feel like I'm constantly on a self-improvement journey. I grow so much between relationships. I change careers. I work out. I move into better and better apartments. My style grows. And it does, to me, it feels demoralizing that no matter how much I like myself, frankly, I'm a Leo like Ole. I feel that kind of passionate self-affirmation, and I'm genuinely shocked when people don't want to
I will say, Briahna, I do relate to that deeply. I mean, listen, yes, to your original point with compromise and values, yes, I want to be clear. That story is very, very old. Like I said, law school, right? Because that was a relationship that never had any business being. We fundamentally were there's no world in which, when I think of it now, present day, he's not even a person I could see myself even conversing with. It makes no sense. I fundamentally believe things that you're not supposed to be doing, relationships that you will not leave, that are not good for you. God has a way, the universe has a way of blowing that up in spectacular fashion, and that needed to happen. That was the best thing ever. And I don't find myself in situations like that now, because I don't do foolishness now. I don't be trying to make fetch happen and blah blah blah.
That's youth, though. That's you're supposed to do crazy, silly stuff.
Yes, I'm saying youth. Yes,
but also
FD was, he just got married.
Worked out.
I told you I got lucky.
But here's the thing. I don't think that that's what it is. I think that a lot of people, frankly, I think it's healthy to kind of grow together. I think there's a way that people, once they get older, are relatively set in their ways, and it becomes difficult to combine one's lives. I reflect back. I thought I was going to marry my college boyfriend. We probably shouldn't have gotten married, but I think there's a world where if we had, maybe my politics would be more to the right, or maybe he wouldn't be on the board of a charter school right now.
Can we agree? But can we agree here that what we think love looks like sometimes in our early 20s and even 30s isn't what it ends up looking like for us in our 40s, and the things that I was looking for as a young man aren't the same things that I'm looking for now.
Yeah,
like what?
I'm very surface level when I'm young, right? And your ass has to be this big, and right? And now it's like,
your ass flexible.
Like back? I'm still looking for a big ass. Katie, we talked about you on stream behind a paywall in a good way.
Oh, thanks. All right.
I just watched that. I have to say this. Pascal made me watch that Eddie Murphy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
You People.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I haven't seen that. I have to watch it.
So for people who don't know, it's a movie starring Jonah Hill and Lauren London about, a Jewish boy and a black girl who end up in a relationship. The black woman's parents are played by Eddie Murphy and Nia Long. Jonah Hill's parents are played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and David Duchovny, who was kind of underserved in that role.
No, he was great because he kept on bringing up.
He was hilarious. So I just watched
movie's
this movie.
mid, but that's the good parts. Go ahead.
I just watched this movie, and so my co-host goes, "Oh, you're gonna be on with Katie Halper. You should try to get her on the show." It was like, if I can talk to Katie Halper, we might be able to be the podcast Kim and Kanye.
You know.
Wow, the podcast Kim and Kanye.
We can.
On my screen, it's Jason, me, and Katie. So I feel like I'm in the middle of something. I'm like,
I'm in the middle of my screen.
It's me, Jason, up top on mine.
So Katie's like on her phone, like breaking up with her boyfriend.
You don't love that man. You don't love that.
So I want to respond to something. I want to respond to something Briahna said. So I say luck, right? So obviously it's not all luck. But I would say we were lucky in that we had. I maybe I was weird, but like I never had like grand like images of what love. I would have never told her when we were going to play songs together around the world. That shit sounds amazing. I'd have laughed at myself while saying it, right? And then my now wife also was not a very like romantically minded woman. She wasn't super interested in getting married or having kids. That was something we grew into. The thing that we had to get to well together, and this maybe even goes back to some of your earlier stuff you talking about, Briahna, is that we weren't scouting each other. Like in terms of like the features that we desired and the skill sets. It wasn't like the NFL draft coming up where you're like, okay, what's this guy's 40 time? What's his broad jump? What are his stats?
You met organically.
And you
didn't know if she liked you at first.
Right.
So, dating apps, and I'm sorry I don't want to break your train of thought, but I want
just
to add
the main thing I want to throw is that because we had certain elements of our disposition aligned so well, it made everything not easy, right? But like, 14, however many years later, I don't know, it's been a long time. We're still together and we're still doing really well. And that's, I think, maybe the thing that a lot of people are missing, and definitely is being, to kind of give Jason a segue, is being erased because of like dating apps and stuff, because it feels like it's big data now for dating. Big data for dating.
Think about it like this. Think about it like this, FD. You meet your wife, right, through a dating app, and you guys can go out. It could be fun, but you still have that app. Mm-hmm. And maybe a match comes up. You're like, oh, shit, what else is out there? There's never a time in real life where I'm going to walk up to Olay and be like, damn, you are a hot woman. You look good. I'd like to take you out and blah, blah, blah. And then be like, can you hold on for a second? Because there's something down the street. That's never going to happen in real life.
Do you use apps?
But that's dating.
Is that how you actually feel when you're on the apps? Because I don't feel that way.
I've heard horrible stories.
When I'm on the apps,
all the time.
When I'm on the apps, feel like I'm trudging the seafloor for shells, and there's nothing in the net. Like, I'm not thinking, oh my God, look at all these wonderful guys. I can't wait to go out with all of them. I'm like, I guess I maybe could be attracted to him if I tried really hard and closed one eye and changed his shirt. And like, like maybe if he's like really nice and smells good, then I could potentially be sexually attracted to this human being. Like, it's not an embarrassment show you my of riches.
Dating profile.
I'm not on the apps anymore. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't actively date anymore. I don't feel, but at the same time, I'm realizing and listening to this conversation that I do have me. I do have me.
You got a squad. You got.
I have people in my life, and
that is stable.
Yeah, right.
And are all very handsome and very like honestly well together in terms of like, I think the man I'm most romantically involved with is like we have a pretty healthy relationship, honestly. Like it's gotten better. Like we get much better in communication, and I feel it's very he's very busy. I am very busy. There's a certain level of understanding. It's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's very clear.
His name is Tuesday, by the way.
That's that New York stuff. Like I'm saying, this is why I think FD is onto something here.
That's that New York stuff.
Yeah, because people are like, this is what it was when I lived in New York and I was your age, Olay. There were lots of eligible options all over the place because I was younger and New York is a better market. So yeah, there was more of an embarrassment of riches at that time, but still, if I met someone and I liked them, I wasn't always looking over my shoulder for the next person. I wanted to actually like them because I always intrinsically felt that there was value in knowing someone for a long time. Wait a minute. I don't believe that there is a such thing as a soulmate. But I believe that what makes someone unique to you and special to you and irreplaceable is the time that you've spent together. So my goal was always to find someone who I have some basic compatibility with, who I have respect for, which is a really big thing for me. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm resenting you. I need to have like a fundamental respect for who you are as a human being. And then the time we spend together builds experiences that make you now irreplaceable to me, right? And that is partly why I feel so frustrated by people who don't seem to value the experience and the time that we've already spent together, because that's the part that I can't get those years back. I can't be like, remember that great summer of 2017, because whoever I was with in 2017 is long gone.
But I just look at it with relief. I mean, maybe it's because I've had good relationships since, and my thing is that I can always get over. The way I get over people is, you know, what do they say? The best way to get over a man is get under another one, which is, I'm sure some are going to say is problematic and gendered or whatever.
But
they have an expression in Spanish, un clavo saca otro clavo, which is like one nail takes out another nail, which doesn't have the double entendre in Spanish as it does in English. But oh shit, my mic just changed.
Can I? I'm sorry. You can go, Ole.
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's like, yes, I feel like I obviously, like I said, my thing materially with the dating world is I'm not on the apps. I'm not actively dating. It's not really like a New York thing. I think there's just a general level of, if you're, at least in my life experience, is, you know, if you're an attractive woman, you have, you know, certain credentials, you just I think there's also a hyper visibility with being public facing or whatever now is like, well, men like me and men of higher calibers and men pursue me, whether or not I'm really thinking about it or not. And I think I do have a lot. I have found, like I said, I'm far more selective in who I would entertain for the same reasons as Brie. I have a similar, like, I think I'm great. The people in my life think I'm great. I really do. If you do not think I'm great too, I literally cannot be here. Like, I'm telling you, the minute I sense even the slightest bit, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't proceed with seeing you anymore. Like, anything that you look like you're gonna fuck up my self-esteem, because genuinely, I truly mean it. I don't have the time to fall apart. Like, professionally, if I fall apart, I start to feel lesser than myself. I can't perform the way that I need to perform. I can't
Let's talk about that, because there's a part of this conversation about dating on the left that we haven't really talked about, which is that we're also content creators on the left. Yeah. And dating as a leftist content creator is a whole other thing, which is obviously less relatable to the audience, but audience, you can deal with it for a second. My experience, I have had mixed feelings about whether it's useful to have a partner who actually understands what's going on the internet, who is also on the internet and understands it firsthand, and therefore can empathize with me and understand the scale of what it means to be, let's say, attacked by a NAFO swarm for a week or whatever. Or if it's better to have someone who's a complete normie and is ignorant of it and who I can go off and escape with on the weekends, and who, you know, and I've gone back and forth on that personally, because I have it with someone who was like very ignorant of what was going on the internet, and they would say kind of dismissive things like, why are you on your phone, and it's not that big a deal, just put it down, as though I'm not getting dragged for filth in front of like millions of people.
But Briahna, isn't that a beautiful thing though? Because think about this. First of all, I was in a relationship after this 7-year one with a woman that she was supportive, but she made tons more money, and the job that I do is like macaroni art. It's like, oh, that's cute. We'll put that in the refrigerator next to that thing. You know, run along now. And we're the reason why I'm in Mexico, not in Oakland anymore. But I would rather be with someone that doesn't know who I am. And not that I'm that famous anyway, but I'd rather be with someone that we can, like we were talking about off air. Let's go do, like, so when me and Katie form the power couple. The podcast power couple, and she gets done saying some silly shit on Twitter. I'm gonna be like, hey, put your phone down. Let's go watch a movie in the living room, and maybe, just maybe, we'll finish.
You people.
We'll watch You People.
Yeah.
So I have to agree with Jason that, because y'all know I'm new here, right? And I'm new here. And I got way bigger than I planned in a short amount of time. and I didn't understand the landscape. I still don't freaking understand the landscape. And so like as like 23-year-old white boys with minimal understanding of what the fuck they're talking about start talking crazy about me, I'm like, who the fuck is this motherfucker think they talk? You know, and so like, and I didn't have Twitter before I had 100,000 subscribers. And so like as like things are coming and like I'm down here like Nas writing Ether, ready to go back at people. And my wife is like, nigga, come upstairs.
Right?
You know what I'm
With
saying?
the phone down.
What are you doing?
Have they talked about your mama yet?
Right. No, not yet. I did just before we started, I found out I was a Nazi now. So I've made it.
Oh, welcome.
I'm officially a black Nazi.
Welcome. We all get there eventually.
Yeah, so a Blittler. I'm officially a Blittler.
So, but let me ask you this, FD. Do you ever feel like there are moments? I mean, it sounds like your wife understands what you're experiencing, but just encourages you to step away. Have you ever experienced feeling like what you're going through on the internet is minimized because your partner doesn't necessarily understand what the emotional toll that, you know, getting ratioed or whatever can take? And that's an open question.
Really, not really. Only because once she reminds me that it's literally children with half my education, a fraction of my knowledge base or life experiences, like that are, you know, mostly just, you know, who are mostly yelling into the void in response to their own issues and insecurity. And now I'm big enough to be not a bludgeon. What's the opposite of a bludgeon? What's something
Target?
that gives me?
I don't know.
Bludgeon
Target, thank you. You know what I'm saying? I haven't had a moment where I've gotten dragged enough. So it's partly also I haven't gotten dragged enough, which is nice. It's probably having, you know, being a dude on the internet versus being a woman. I won't catch that full heat that they give.
Can I say something? Can I say something? So we did a live show with Anna Kasparian in LA. And she had said something that people didn't like. And motherfuckers went crazy on the internet. They were calling her all kind of names. I was getting called names, and I'm getting tagged and stuff. I don't have Twitter on my phone.
Wasn't when she said "fuck you, Aaron Mate"?
No.
Okay.
It was some other shit about people on the street in LA or some shit. Whatever it was.
Oh, it was about homelessness.
Yeah. Homeless, yeah.
It was something. And so look, it wasn't about me, but me and all these other people were getting tagged in it. And you know, it was bad. People were saying mean things that were beyond. It's like, look, man, your guys are going too far. And it was like, man, I wonder if someone's going to show up. So she was a little worried. And no one is going to show up. And that's the thing. You can get called, Bree, and they're going to say some nasty shit. Right?
Oh, yeah, they have. Some of it's from Anna
you know. Look, all y'all throw dirt at each other.
I don't. This is what Vosh tried to do to me. Like, oh, we all do it to each other. When I interviewed Vosh, I said, no, sir, I have never talked about you in my life. I don't get in it. Hey, people are going to do what they're going to do.
I saw a minute and 18 seconds of you talking to that dude that looks like, how is your whole style going to be? I want to look like the comic book store owner on The Simpsons. Can't take that nigga seriously.
Jason, stop.
Don't take them niggas seriously. But the point of my story is nobody's going to go up to you in real life and say the shit they say to you online.
Right.
And in that moment, it hit me. Fuck these niggas.
So I think there's something about, to your point, FD, like having your own life, having your own kind of accomplishments that you root your kind of worth in outside of the internet. And I experienced that too. Again, in this conversation with Vosh, she was like, well, we're all doing this for money. We're all on the internet for clicks. We're all doing this, you know, as entertainers. And I said, well, it's perfectly fine if that's the case, but with all due respect, I was an attorney. If I wanted to make money, I was a corporate lawyer. This is not why I'm here. That actually isn't my bag. And so I do think that sometimes I am able to stay out of some stuff because I have that perspective. However, it doesn't mean that emotionally in the moment, you know, when I remember when I was going through Force the Vote, I was dating a normie the first time and he was so sweet. But there was a limitation to how much I could even talk to him and explain not just what was happening on the internet, but the congressional goings on. He was just not a politics person. He didn't have a lot of interest in that. And that was fine. And sometimes it felt like escapism, but sometimes it felt like a trap. But let me come back to something else that Jason brought up earlier when he came for Olay a little bit. which is the role that race plays in dating. Mm-hmm. And this is also tricky as a leftist because, I mean, look, here are the lines that we get. We get, it doesn't matter, love is love, everybody's equal. We get the line that says, people are allowed to have their preferences. There's no such thing as, if you prefer one kind of person, even if it's not your own race, then it's not racism because you can't. You got to follow your heart and your loins.
No, fuck all that.
Okay, so what do you have to say about that, Ole? I thought you might have some opinions.
Bunch of bullshit. I mean, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Because you've said that you no longer will date white guys or just anyone outside of your race.
Outside my race at all, but definitely, absolutely not white men. But I
what if there's a hot Puerto Rican?
No,
a really hot Puerto Rican.
Absolutely
you about
not.
to activate a whole other part of the manosphere to go at you.
Whatever, babe. They can kiss my ass. At this point, I don't look at bad faith. And anytime I'm on Briahna stuff, I know they hate me, and I just leave it alone. Like, I'm not looking. No, I date strictly black men, but it's because I think you have to be honest about who you are. And I think there's a certain level of, they love to create these movies, all these you peoples and stuff, and make it seem like these are cute little things you could live with and shit. No, they're not. It comes up all the time, but they're different people. Not everybody is me. Like, not everybody has the same level of politics. Not everybody has a certain level of how they see the world and what creates the conflicts. But for me, I realized it clicked. This does not work at all. The way that I go about the world, the work that I do, what I think, how I perceive things, it is not something that works for, I need to be with a black man. That's just, and I realized that's just
what if the black man doesn't eat grits?
That's okay. I mean, I love grits, more grits for me.
But he just won't.
Jason, what's your you kind of try to figure Ole is not dating white dating black people. What was your wife? Well, this is such a weird question. What race was your wife, Jason?
Well, there were two of them.
Two. They're both the same, so all the kids could look the same.
You're pulling a Kardashian. You were doing.
And that race is.
You were doing like the Kardashians like to do.
They were the same of what?
Y'all want to know, huh? You want to see a picture of my son?
Yeah,
Jason, no, we don't want to see a picture of your son. We want to know what race your wives were. Because you fully came for Ole.
Like, yeah, no, you didn't.
I didn't come for her. Why you start drama?
Yes, you did. You put a target right on
I was messing with.
Did you date a white man?
You act like you ain't never hung out with niggas before. We mess with each other.
Okay, so tell us, Jason. Tell us. It's your turn to spill the tea.
I have my exes are Filipino.
Okay, both of them.
Yeah, all.
Oh,
every person you've ever dated,
and all the women you've dated.
All the ex-wives,
all the ones I was like with, yeah.
The ones you put a ring on. Ole, fix your face.
Beige kids, all the kids, just hair good. Just.
Oh my God! So you're joking, Jason, but this is the kind of thing that frustrates some people.
Y'all wasn't talking to me.
We are talking to you right now. We are all aggressively.
Now you want to talk to me?
Let me. I'll stop, Jason.
Okay.
Stop.
Oh no, not there.
You're gonna throw your line in with the MFD. You're gonna tether yourself to
Jason
this
really
means.
What Jason means is that at the time in his life when he was active in music and traveling. And in his romantic space, black women were not as much in his atmosphere as
I've heard there's no black musicians, is what I've heard.
I'm not saying that there's no.
There's a real deficit of black women in music.
I played heavy metal punk music.
There's 3 black women. There was probably 3 black women.
Yeah, it's just Jada Pinkett.
You know, women were there.
Just as PR to act as your publicist. Let me just show you how you should rephrase that answer. What you should say is, no, I was not at that period of my. I was not in proximity with a lot of black women. That's different. Different because that makes sense. Like white law school acts, I was in a white law school, right? Like that's different proximity versus if you say, then the black woman wasn't checking for that. Now you're being shot.
But I think that's perfectly fair. Like all of us live in a country that's 70% white, and we're always going to be in the situation where it's harder for us to find people like us than white people find people like this. However, Jason, when you're not even dating white women, when it's suddenly another minority, a hyper minority, what percent of America is from the Philippines?
You see how Briahna didn't want to let you live? You saw how was, but I got you. Hold on, but if he was touring, but if he was touring, I remember I dated a musician one time, and as a part of them touring, very much so. But it was a lot, the Asian countries, Asian nations, Asian people. I feel like it was very much so a lot more of that in that touring world.
Here's what I have to say.
I mean, I'm going to be playing in front of a lot of dudes. First of all, it's going to be mostly dudes, right? That I'm going to be playing because of the music I play. And if there is any females there, they're usually with a dude. So
I think the thing that we often do around interracial relationships is we pathologize it more than it needs to be pathologized. Mm-hmm. It mostly comes down to proximity and lifestyle. And there is pathology, don't get me wrong. There definitely is pathology. I've been around enough black men.
Jason just said all his kids have good hair. FD. Yes, there's pathology.
I've been around enough black men who date, who are with non-black women to have heard things far worse than what Jason said. You know what I'm saying? Until they find out my wife is black, and then they're like, "Oh, I thought you was one of us."
Let's keep it a buck. I will say, listen, I don't think it's fair to assume that every person that is automatically, like the minute you see without any information, if you see an interracial couple, to assume that those people are anti whatever their race is or that they have an inferiority complex.
I agree.
Like that. I think that is not fair as a blanket statement. However,
once
they open up their mouth and start telling you about preferences, stereotypes, and all kinds of generalizations about the groups or whatever, then it is free to start pressing charges. That's what I think. That is.
I think that's true. And also when you see
I have friends. I think there's a difference between if you happen to date interracially also and you exclusively date.
Yes,
this
is the thing.
I have friends.
So I ask whenever I've gone out with someone who wasn't black, I've asked how often, like, what is your dating history? Like, how often do you date someone of your own race? How often do you? And oftentimes, what I will discover if I date some guy, let's say he's Asian American and never dates Asian women, I'm suspect. Like, what is your problem? Like, what you don't like? Because I don't want to. That's a bullshit excuse. There's a billion people in China and they're all having a perfectly good time marrying and fucking each other without thinking of each other's parents. And that's ridiculous. That's an insane. And I have friends who say shit like that to me too. I've got one girlfriend of mine.
Never messing with you again.
Who's Chinese American who says that shit. Oh, I can't date an Asian guy because he reminds me of my dad. Your dad looks like a billion people.
No, that's a complex. No, that's a complex. Like,
you gotta come close to the mic. You in your
bag. Yeah, they have a complex. That's just the truth. They have a complex. Like, and you know what? People have to be honest. We all can internalize foolishness and have to assess that. When I realized that I had internalized, when I was like, oh, I am no longer dating white men. This doesn't make sense. This was like this at all. Like as a practice, this cannot happen. But when I realized, like, oh, there's some internalized anti-blackness, was when I pulled this black man that is actually still my man. So fine. Yeah. And when I realized, like, oh, this was my dream man that I wanted to pull, and I just reached my hand out and I was able to do it. And I realized the caliber with which that man looked versus where that white man looked. And I realized, like, look at the standards to which, the caliber of black man that I deal with versus with the bar, how you dropped it for white men. And I was like, look at white supremacy seeping its way in.
And that's the thing.
Girl, get it together. And I addressed myself immediately as a girl. No.
A thing I like to put out there with dating interracially, and this is like across the board for, minorities, colonized people in the country, whatever code word you want to use for non-white folks. All of us are like persistently washing off the residue of whatever you are.
Yes.
Because you have to go through the world in that minority status. And so it's easy to fall back into that shit. It's a wonder why any of us fucking each other.
That's such a good point. Because I spent enough time and enough of my emotional energy trying to affirm myself and affirm my own aesthetic and affirm my own hair and affirm my own skin in a world that is not here for it, largely. To have to come home and in my house hear some comment that is degrading. And not like, it's just like little things here and there. I think I said this on the last episode. I was out with a white guy a couple summers ago, and he made some comment. We were in a IKEA or something, and there was a pillow with a curly hair on it, and he goes, "Oh, look, there's a pube on this pillow." And I was triggered like that scene from The Craft. I was like, I'm looking at that hair thinking, it doesn't look like a pube, it looks like just a curly hair. And I was like, I couldn't let it go. I didn't say anything about it in the moment, but I definitely picked a fight later on because I couldn't let it go. And that's the thing. I really struggle with that. Go ahead.
There come those moments to me where you have to keep it real. Like, this ain't for me. And I won a story like that. Actually, I did on my show Leftist Mafia last night. I had Bantu knots, and I was telling my friend, I was like, that was actually one of the things when I realized cannot date white men anymore. The last white man I ever went out with. I was talking about my hairstyles or something, and he was like, "Oh, I like all your hairstyles or whatever." And then he was like, "Oh, I guess if I had to," and he was like going through my Instagram, and he was like, "Oh, if I had to pick one, I didn't like." And it was when I had my Bantu knots with my locks, and I'm like, "Oh, anti-blackness! Anti-blackness! I was like, you see, this would never happen. Every black man knows when they're bad."
But here's the thing, Olay.
Like, I'm just.
To complicate this a little bit, that of course it is true that sometimes you're with black guys who are like that too. Yeah, and I had to when I first was opening up my dating, when I first started like dating my first not black person, it was almost a little liberating because I've been in so many relationships with black men where I felt like I wasn't light skinned enough, my hair wasn't straight up, especially back in the day before everybody went natural. And in a place like Harvard, I got to say, it was very colorist. My best black girlfriend in college, we looked around one day and realized that we were the darkest black American girls at Harvard. Like, think about that for a second. Now, there's some other people, people from the diaspora, but in terms of like black American girls, all the black American girls were pale as hell and had looked like Lauren London with hair down their back. And we were like, what is happening here? How did this? And it's like, privilege recreates privilege. All their parents went to Harvard. There's legacy in the black community as well. And that was what it was. And a lot of them were mixed race and all of that, although not all of them. And my college boyfriend was very much of that milieu of a bourgeois black family. I won't get into any details because privacy. I felt a lot of that colorism and pressure when dating a black guy. When I was dating my first non-black boyfriend was Asian, it was almost like, oh, we're on completely different aesthetic territory here. He doesn't fetishize long straight hair because everybody he knows has long straight hair. It's like we're in the no man's land of neither of us are white. We're outside of white supremacy. He's an Asian man who's like low on the dating hierarchy. I'm a black, and there was something like really freeing and refreshing about it. But I also felt unease. Like, am I just trying to escape? Is this not real? Like, am I just trying to escape having to reckon with the way the world is by acting like I can live in this fantasy land with this human?
I have found that anti-blackness is everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Whether it not be a white guy or whomever it is. And I understand you, especially with the colorism. I mean, I'm darker than you, and my name is Olayemi Olurin. It's given real African as I am. So yeah, very much so. I know what that's like. And I think growing up, my mother is light, almost white looking. But she jumped the curve. She was very preemptive on colorism because the Bahamas is very colorist. And so it was always like, my big system always had it like, you are beautiful. We beautiful. You're not in style yet. Because beauty is very much so something that comes in style, like very much so what the rest of the world is talking about now, because it isn't interesting. I have a very similar experience to you, Brie, with like being in environments where they do not find this inherently what you are is not what they think is beautiful, versus now being, public facing, and people regularly think, oh, you're beautiful, and factor that into your like identity. And it's interesting, like, oh, it wasn't always that way. But yeah, that being said, I've found in interracial dynamics in my personal experience that it is very anti-black, and even the ways in which, even when they do fetishize you, they do think you're beautiful, it's almost like as in the ways that you are somehow atypical of whatever they thought of black imagery. You know what I mean? Like, I would find that like the law school one I was talking about, he would compliment the fact that my features like are more like, oh, your lips not that big, or your nose is.
I have one of those.
You know what I mean?
I went out with a biracial guy who said that shit to me, and that was the first and last time when we went out.
Exactly. So
Can I take a moment to also speak for the fact that there's a lot of black men that experience colorism, believe it or not.
Yeah, 100%.
Except they're light skinned.
Yeah.
Oh no, come on now. I was with you until you said that, dumb. Come on, FD. I was with the other way.
No, I did no light skin love on this show. There's no light skin love on this show.
I did a whole video about standing on that hill.
People make fun of light skinned guys the way that people make fun of women for being too skinny. Like, it's not real.
It's
colorism highly affects let me just say this. Colorism affects dark-skinned Black men in the same way that it affects dark-skinned Black women. And there's a fetishization of it that we like use to like pretend like it isn't affecting them the same way when they are, but it's very much so used to pre-paint them as brute, dangerous, all these different things.
Tyrese changed that shit. When Tyrese came on the scene, he changed that shit.
He did change it a little bit.
He changed that shit.
Wesley
was
the first on the streets to really
Wesley, Tyrese, them chocolatey Negroes. Look at Katie Grin. Just changed the whole game.
I just wanna put this out to the audience. If there's no reason to come after me on Twitter when Jason is on this saying the things that he's been saying. It would be Jason about to have all my mentions hot. I would consider it misogynoir if you were to say something about me with Jason. You see, I have been a person who's taken accountability. I have righted my wrongs. I changed my life around. Like, my men's is all they're Black, my politics are together. Do not include me. I wanna formally denounce Jason.
wait a minute, because Jason, you have said some things that have been in the periphery of this, and we haven't come back to them a little bit because I'm trying to save you from yourself a little bit, but you don't seem to care.
Don't.
Okay.
I stopped giving a fuck a long time ago.
So do you think on some level subconsciously that you felt the same way Olay was like, I felt like I was almost like lowering the bar for these white guys, or like somehow there was internalized white supremacy for me to think this guy was on the same caliber that the other Black guys I pull, that you maybe were doing the same with some of your, I mean, it's hard because you were in real substantive relationships with them, but do you think you were ever devaluing Black women as relative to some of the non-Black women that you were choosing?
No. Because I'm from a neighborhood full of Black women. There's, Black women all up in my house.
Have you dated them though? I'm not talking about your sister and your mom and whatnot.
Yeah.
When's the last time you were out with a Black woman, Jason?
Oh, you don't want to know about that.
I do. That's why I asked. Because FD was trying to save his boy, but he knows.
It's been a minute. You should have heard it. Honestly, all that you need to really analyze it was the tone, but you said, no. That's what he said. But you said,
can I jump in?
Look at this solemn tone he's found for this segment.
I'll be honest. I have my own insecurity issues because Pascal and I talk about this a lot because I don't have the educational background. And where I was living in Oakland, there is a class of these Black dudes that FD is talking about where a lot of them work in tech and they make good money. And there's a whole scene of cats that I don't necessarily fit in because our politics don't mesh, which is whatever.
What do you mean by that? In what ways do your politics not mesh?
If you're, bourgeois, you're bourgeois. You have bourgeois politics, right?
Like liberal?
Sure.
Can we? Sure. Can I save Jason a little bit? And
I don't know why you want to, but go ahead.
Let me dig the ditch deeper so you can have more.
No. I want to start here and then get out to at least amplify what I think you're going with this. In that. When you as you start to get into being very critical of like this is something I'm seeing, like being still in Atlanta, being of an HBCU, being of the Black bourgeois, we're very uncritical of how Black bourgeois folks move. And like if you are a Black man, like seeking, like kind of divesting from the Black excellence mythology, you might not have as many options with Black women within the brackets that
because I love the fact y'all think that all these Black women are like, man, I just can't wait to date a broke ass musician.
But here's the thing, Jason. This is what complicates it for me. This is what I don't understand. In Oakland, in San Francisco, wherever, to the extent that there are a lot of Black bourgeois tech guys, the majority of bourgeois tech guys with normie lib politics are not Black. They're all Asian and white. Okay, so for you to sit here and be like, "Oh, I have to date an Asian woman, I have to date a white woman, or whatever."
I don't have to do anything.
They're in their pool also potentially attracted to. Wait a minute. They're potentially in a pool where they could be dating all of these white and Asian tech guys, right? So it's
Briahna.
no different from them. If anything, the pool is more in your favor because disproportionately we have lower levels of those educational achievements.
You're missing the point.
What's
Briahna,
the point?
You're missing the point. The point is, hey, I'm looking for crazy women that are going to destroy my life. Okay? These women don't look at your face. You don't want to fuck with me. I tried to send you messages. Did I ever get a return message?
What?
We can watch science fiction together.
What on earth?
So Jason, no.
Jason's gonna shoot a shot on the entire panel. Are you putting the cookie?
Make my position clear.
Jason.
Okay, for those of you listening, Ole just put a Kunta Kinte kufi on her head.
I was with you when we were talking about when we're in the.
Okay.
When we start talking about class dynamics, I can rock with you. When you start getting away from that, it gets less and less.
I need to bring Katie back in this. Katie, you're not off the hook, Katie. You're not off the hook. Because in my years of knowing you, Katie, I gotta say.
Katie, fix your face.
We have had this conversation about how, with the frequency with which or whether or not you want to date Jewish men. And you are not currently, I don't know how much you want to talk about your life, so let me not get into your life.
How
do you feel? You live in New York City. So I don't want to hear any of these inventory problems that Jason's talking about. Oh, there's just not enough around. I don't that you're living in a place where you can.
But I don't feel like I need to date. I mean, I've never felt any pressure to date any group or ethnicity. Well,
not pressure. Have you ever had a desire? Because I will say, and maybe if you listen,
I've had Jewish boyfriends. I've had non-Jewish boyfriends. I've had,
and have you ever felt this
Puerto Rican
of like solid, home or solidarity or affirmation or whatever that Ole and I have been talking about in the context of a Jewish relationship that you've missed outside of that? Or no, it just doesn't matter.
It's so different. I just feel like it's such a different comparison for so many reasons. That I don't think that it's not like I feel like there are. I mean, it's not like I feel like I'm raised in a world where I'm constantly told I look Jewish and where beauty standards are not Jewish. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't track.
You really don't feel that way, Katie? Because I just got in a big fight with a bunch of Jewish friends over the Fabelmans movie.
Have you seen it yet? No.
Over what?
The Fabelmans movie. It's like Spielberg's new film about his family and his childhood. And in it, they cast, because they always be casting these chickses as his mom. They cast the white Michelle Williams.
Yeah, right.
The black Michelle Williams?
Yeah, from Destiny's Child.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, FD. Now that's what they're going to come for you over.
That's the
who was really
thing.
checking for Michelle out Destiny's Child?
Don't kick the hive. Don't kick the hive. Anyway.
Is that the one that does all the Christian movies?
Yes.
Yeah, I think she went into gospel singing or what have you. Anyway, the point is that I was like, do you ever mind that in all of these movies, like we went through a whole list of movies that we watched with Jewish women.
Mrs.
Exactly.
Maisel,
I was shocked to find out that she wasn't Jewish. I was irritated. We went through a whole list. What's her name? The WeWork movie. The WeWork movie about the Israeli guy and his wife.
About that guy?
His wife is Anne Hathaway in that movie.
Oh.
And we went through a list of 10 movies we had just watched where the men were frequently Jewish in the movie, Jewish actors cast, but the women invariably were shiksas. And the only time you have to go back to a Barbara Streisand movie in the 1970s to find the last time we watched a movie.
It's a non-Jew.
It's a non-Jewish.
It's a non-Jewish person. Actually, it's pretty offensive. It means abomination.
Oh,
yeah, whatever.
It's not really. I mean, not in these.
Look how Briahna get. She still never answered the question why she never got back to my inboxes messages.
I literally don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, and all of a sudden, I don't know. I will be screenshotting all of these and putting them on Twitter.
Though, my mom dated, as some of you may know, but she did briefly date Marion Barry.
God damn! Why are we not talking about that? The whole show could have been that.
Yeah.
When did your mama date Marion Barry?
In the 60s, before he was, had various issues. Yeah.
Can we hear more about
teeth?
Marion?
Yeah.
Okay, so Katie, you're saying that I bring up that movie just to make the point that I feel like there is definitely a cultural, Hollywood-driven, media-driven
I guess there is.
Preference for white non-Jewish women. And
I guess.
And when we were in this fight, the three other Jewish people at the table were kind of very surprised. They were like, "Oh, we love Michelle Williams. She represented us so well." And I was like, "That doesn't weird you out?"
Well, I'm sorry, Katie,
I mean, I guess you're right. That is true. And part of it is that even though I think like when I was younger, people used to think I was either Latina or Jewish. Obviously, you can be both of those things at the same time. But I'm just saying they would think I was like Latina, not Jewish, or they would think I was Jewish. And but I also like,
why is that, Katie?
well, but I think that so for some people it's like it's so obvious that I'm Jewish. Like I really track as Jewish, but I don't have, no one's, this is so awkward to talk about. No one's like, you have very Jewish features. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think I'm very separated from thinking of myself physically as a certain way.
Interesting.
And yeah.
Would that be offensive if someone said you had Jewish features? Like, oh, you have kind of Jewy.
No. Well, I think it would be a weird thing to say, though. Like, just a weird thing to say, regardless of what I look like. But
that's
does that make sense at all? What I'm saying?
Well, I think so, because I mean, like, and feel free to correct me. Like, I know Jewish is not white, but white isn't a thing. White is a possession of a class possession, you know, identity. So, like, a lot of Jewish people, from my perspective, operate within whiteness, and so, like, to see a white woman represent them probably doesn't have the same, like, you don't have the same, like, what's up with that response as if you were whitewashing another ethnic group, you know? Now, it definitely is a thing. I didn't realize
there's implications for it, right? There's like when we as Black people get mad that, like, let's say biracial girls are cast in every role right now. Right. God bless them. I love Jazara Shahidi and the rest of them. I think they're great. But it is weird to look at young Hollywood and see that, like, when they need a Black person to play a role, they're always picking a mixed race person. Yeah. The implication of that, the standard of beauty, like, it's affirming a certain standard of beauty that is distinctly not 100% Black, and it is creating preferences and privileges and a beauty standard that, again, marginalizes Black people. So to me, when I see Michelle Williams in a role like that, it's like, these are all opportunities for us to be looking at Jewish women and seeing them as beautiful. There's a shot in the movie where she's very angelic and in slow motion, and the camera's following her, and we're all supposed to believe she's so beautiful. And I'm like, how meaningful, how good would it feel if there was a woman who was Jewish and perhaps looked more, whatever that means, ethnic, in that role? It seems to me a lost opportunity. And that,
I think the lack of Jewish outrage not a reflection of perhaps the proximity to whiteness.
I was going to say, I think there is some of that too. It's like we're not even. But it's different though, because now that we're saying this, like, I have friends who have been told that they look more Jewish and they have like curly hair, and I think for them they're more sensitive to this stuff than I am. So I think that, like, I like, if I look at it, like, it is fucked up actually that they are not more Jewish actors playing Jewish women, or Jewish women playing Jewish women. Like, on the aggregate, I guess that is a problem.
Like,
but are you mad about all the Jewish producers?
Well, no, but, like, that's the other thing. I think it's kind of hard to, obviously, no
studio head, but
that's not.
Yeah, it's like I think the one thing that I disagree with here, Brie, is that we forget about markets. You're talking about strictly Oscar films and big budget films. There's literally Black film market. FD lives in Atlanta, which has become Black Hollywood. So you want to see Black women in films? There's tons of them.
Well, no,
it's February. They got a whole little chart that goes celebrating.
Jason, I just want to be clear. I can spot a cancellation a mile away. I could see a Twitter thread and a ratio. I could feel it.
Yeah, is this paywall? Or is this all about?
I felt the whole.
This is a free episode.
But am I lying? No, seriously, am I lying? Is there not markets?
No,
Black film?
Definitely you're lying. Like, but like, there's a market.
I'm lying. There's not a market for Black film.
There's a market, but the idea that, like, oh, you could see it, like, it's just amply supported the same way. Just because Tyler Perry Tyler Perry is able to do something, you know what I mean, and do it and make significant.
It's not just I wholeheartedly disagree.
Okay, all right.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I literally did research on Black film from its inception to the Blaxploitation era to the rise of Spike Lee and after. And to assume that there isn't a market for these films, why would people make
a market? But you brought it up in, like, relation as though we're talking about, you know, lack of there being these roles
Jewish representation.
Yeah, and you made it seem, you throw this contrast like as though like, well, the black, well,
no, Briahna threw the contrast.
But wait a minute. I
missed this. I want to make sure.
Yeah,
well, go ahead.
The reason that I brought up Jewish women representation in film, you can is to ask the question whether or not media representation is creating and affirming racial or ethnic preferences in the dating market that are detrimental to Jewish women or black women, et cetera. So even if there is a smaller market, a less mainstream market for black film in which darker skinned, fully black people are cast in those films, I don't think that really goes to the fundamental question of whether or not the mainstream content that we're all hit with every day is creating so-called preferences that end up hurting various kinds of people in the dating.
But isn't it often a question of reflection versus creation?
I'm sorry.
It's both. It's both.
It's both.
The movie that launches Marvel is a black movie with a dark-skinned actress. I can't even remember her name.
Miss Marvel.
And Wesley Snipes. Blade. No.
Blade.
Oh.
Blade launches Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Who's
the actress? Who's the actress in Blade?
Oh man. I can't remember her name.
Now you should go look that up. I can't remember her name for life.
I mean, I'm sorry, but are you guys really arguing? Boucher, right? Are you guys really arguing that a movie that came out like 25 years ago that
started Marvel definitely
that they have to come back and remake? Yeah.
No.
And their biggest film.
Let me finish the question because I don't know if I want to agree with you.
Nothing y'all said was responsive to my question, but you guys don't know that because I didn't finish the question.
Sorry.
You're telling me that this movie that came out 25 years ago is germane to the point of whether or not we're overwhelmingly inundated. We're overwhelmingly inundated with images of light-skinned black women as the beauty standard.
I'm not saying that.
Because that's what we're talking about here. So God bless Blade and whoever was in it. There are certainly dark-skinned black women today that are killing the game, and I love them.
Broke records, and it wasn't just because a small portion of the population went out to go see it. A minority of the population went to go see
Jason,
it.
I need to understand.
How is that relevant to the question of whether or not
culture you're literally saying that because movies that most people don't see, because how much money are the movies making that you're talking about?
Well, these are very
none of us knew what you were talking about, but yet and still you're saying that this film
wait a minute.
Yo, you don't know Yara Shahidi, you don't know Zendaya, you don't know any of the many of young light-skinned biracials that are dominating Hollywood that you're talking about.
I don't know what the woman's name is.
Lauren London in You People, and she's supposed to have two black parents. They have to kind of write a joke into the script
in real life, right?
She doesn't in real life. And this is the problem that many people bring up.
Cat grams,
exactly. What does it do that every time there's a script that calls for a black woman, they find the biracial actress, and similarly every time a script calls for a Jewish woman, they call for a non-Jewish actress.
Can I speak?
You know what's interesting? I have to say that like I hate when Jewish people like pretend that being Jewish is like being black. So I think I kind of overcompensated and totally dismissed the question that you had, Brie, but there is something to it.
I also convinced the 3 other Jewish people I had dinner with that night by the end of the evening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like anyone has to have a grievance with it. You're allowed to like Michelle Williams. You're allowed to enjoy that movie. Fine. I enjoyed the movie, but I do think that let's take this back to a generalized question about preferences that we kind of started with. I am very suspicious of people when they say they have preferences because I feel like they often haven't interrogated what is motivating their preferences. And I have had enough experiences in my life where, let's say I'm going out with a short, light-skinned man. Suddenly after we break up, everywhere I look is short, light-skinned men that I'm attracted to. Then I go out with a man that looks different. And everywhere I look after we break up, I'm attracted to men that look like him. And my experiences having proximity with people informs who I'm attracted to going forward. And when people are only dating one kind of person, or specifically not dating people from their own racial group, it's hard for me to take that as like a neutral, unless you're living in Sweden and only dating Swedish women because there's only Swedish women around. It's hard for me not to see that choices are being made and to ask about the politics that are underlying those choices.
I mean, are you with the black dude?
Let me jump in real quick because I think we're all affected. Even the comment that Jason just said about Chadwick Boseman playing Thurgood Marshall retreats back to my thing about black men, light-skinned black men, and colorism. Yes, it's a real thing. But the realer thing is the erasure of dark-skinned black women from mainstream media, which I guess I didn't know this until now, mimics the erasure of Jewish women from mainstream media whenever they're not playing I guess Jewish whenever they're playing the wife of a Jewish man.
I should note that everyone else in the movie, like who wasn't the like pretty mom character, like the crotchety grandmother who was stern and mean, everyone who was like older, like everybody who was more stereotypically Jewish and not supposed to be an attractive symbol in the movie was definitely played by Jewish actors.
Yeah, and we're talking about white supremacy. We're talking about white supremacy. We're talking about how our media is designed both like from the top down, but also being reflected through society's norms to uphold white supremacy. So it makes sense that a lot of black folks don't notice that they have to write a joke in about Lauren London being, much lighter than both her parents.
Because your granddaddy was half white, and it's that white man's blood that got through you. Yeah.
And so that makes sense on a lot of levels. And you can't act like, now I want to be clear. Let's make sure we are data informed. The vast majority of people date and marry intraracially. You know what I'm saying? Because I get frustrated when we get into interracial conversations, and it probably happens more as you get up in certain tax brackets, which is why I think it tracks more in certain spaces. But we don't want to overplay the reality of the problem. But the problem is we see non-Blackness and in some cases, I'm sure non-Jewishness as some type of idealized space to inhabit. That's why we look at whiteness as a possession or a property, because man, if this white woman likes me, then now I have access to that property of whiteness, and I can give some of that to my kids possibly. And that comes from growing up in it's funny, I think in the 90s it was different. I think there was way more dark-skinned representation for women in the 90s and probably more light-skinned representation for men in the 90s. But now I can imagine, I have two sons, and like when we were watching something on Netflix, and I had a whole hotel conversation with my son. We were watching one of the family shows that's like a kind of Christian base, and it's a black family, and everybody in the family is kind of my complexion. A couple of the children are your complexion, Briahna, and then the daughter, who is the female lead, is Katie's complexion. And my son straight up asked,
"That's how it always is.
How did they have this white girl as their daughter?" And I'm like, "Oh, son." All right, so let's start with the prison. Right. Let's start with the transatlantic slave trade.
FD. But I think that's really real. And I will also say this, in the dating market, I have experienced, sometimes my friends make fun of me and they say, "You never date dark-skinned black guys." I say, "Au contraire. I have tried many a time. I have felt like I was valued less by them because I couldn't give them light-skinned children." I've had someone say that to me outright as a joke, but it was said out of their mouth. And I have experienced going out with guys and then seeing who they end up with later, and it's always like some biracial woman or a non-black woman. And I've had like, that is also their kind of internalized anti-blackness ends up hurting me, because there was many a fella I would have liked to have spent more time with if they hadn't had this idea that I wasn't contributing to their gene pool in some way that was going to advance their color interests.
But you didn't want to return those messages. We could have had little kitty-head children. I know how to use the pressing comb, okay? I know how to put
First of all, our children are not pressing or relaxing their hair even a single time.
We could keep it natural however you want to do it. Okay. That wasn't the problem. The problem was you didn't want to return the messages. So you could have had these little, milk chocolatey children.
Oh my God. Okay. I don't know how this got to be this way. Jason, you have exactly, like 5 minutes of this conversation left to shoot your shot at Ole, because she's the only one here on this panel that hasn't gotten it yet.
Ole left.
She left. She said she had to go.
Oh, she had to go? I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay.
Ole left before she
said, "Plug my Substack." And my show, Leftist Mafia.
Look, I don't know how we ended up here in what was ostensibly supposed to be a conversation about dating on the left. I meant to ask you, the next category after race was about to be age. And I was going to put this question to you about the discourse around Leonardo DiCaprio and his latest girlfriend.
That's gross.
But that might be too much for this late
in their 40s.
Thank you, Jason. Yes.
You need to be in your 40s with no hope in your eyes.
Okay, Jason, then not in the cards for us then.
Look at Katie goes, well,
because I'm only 37, so I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Oh, that's too young. That's too young. That's too young.
How old
Katie,
is DiCaprio?
So Leonardo DiCaprio is 49.
He's 49.
He's 49. His new girlfriend is 19. And of course, the joke is that there's these charts that have been made where he's never dated someone over 25. When they get to be 25, he breaks up with them. So you can see this like chart of the ages of the women he's with at a given time. And his latest woman is 19. So I heard someone made this joke. She's so young that COVID interrupted her high school education.
That's gross.
Wow. That is pretty fucking young.
But I talked with Robbie about this on the Hill, and he was like, he and a lot of conservatives think that liberals are making too much of this. They're making this like it's like a kind of a predation or grooming or predatory in some way. That they're both adults, they can do what they want, and obviously they're both adults and they can do what they want. I think that kind of sidesteps the conversation.
Right,
it's legal. No one's arguing that it's not legal.
Of course, yeah.
But is it weird?
Yes, it's weird.
Well, what do you have to talk to a
19-year-old?
I don't know, Katie. Are you Briahna's age?
TikTok.
I'm a little bit older.
There's nothing for me to talk to a 25-year-old person about. We don't like the same shit, and I
clearly
hate
it's not about talking.
Worked there for years.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, what do you? That seems a little groomery. That's creepy.
It's a weird spread.
So I want to resist,
especially if he has this kind of goes back to the what you guys were saying about having preferences. Like it's one thing if you date a person in this ethnicity once, but if it's like a pattern, this seems like it's a pattern with him. Yeah. So it's hard to give him a benefit of the doubt.
Is he serious or is he joking?
I don't even know what that means. I mean, they are seriously in a relationship. Whatever that,
Like really, what do you guys? Oh, that's so weird.
Well, so what I think it is it's got to be a power thing from my perspective.
Oh, yeah.
You when you're, I'm pulling from my manosphere stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But like when you hear them talk, they talk about younger women from a pure commodified like perspective, and so as a young woman. She represents a certain quality of goods that has not been attached to any other man, has not been, has not aged, has not had life experience. So he gets to be her everything from his perspective. I think that is when you look at men who habitually date very young, it's engendered into that dynamic is like there's a value to youthful femininity that is not attached to older women.
But
and
FD,
if you have no shame, how
do you learn anything from that relationship?
Who wants to learn?
I don't know that that's the priority.
Yeah.
I mean, here's what seems obvious. You're allowed to have sex with a 19-year-old. Okay, no one is saying anything's illegal. No one's saying anything about that. However,
she wasn't born when Titanic came out.
Correct. Oh. She was born the year The Aviator came out. Okay. So, but this is the issue. It's like, it's so obvious that the only thing that's going on in this relationship is physical, right? Because what are you going to do with a 19-year-old?
I resist that a little bit. It's not physical. It's physical to an extent, but the physicality is more about the power imbalance.
But the point is that you're not getting anything substantive out of this person. And so when people are like rolling their eyes and like, oh, this is gross, it's not that they think it's necessarily... Look, she's a model. She has probably more independence and maturity than the average 19-year-old. Models oftentimes are out working, having careers at age 14, traveling the world, very independent. Like, I think that all of that is likely true. But the reason that it feels gross is because we basically accept this. This is what I said to Robbie on the show. I think we accept this in large part because of what she looks like. Society accepted because of what she looks like. And if she looked younger, so people were pointing out that the age gap between Leonardo DiCaprio and this woman is the same as the age gap between Pedro Pascal and the little girl who plays his daughter figure on Last of Us. And it's the same age gap as 11 from Stranger Things and her cop dad.
Oh God.
So when we think about it with a little girl, they're the same age. Like all of those girls are the same age, but because Leonardo's girlfriend is like kind of a sexy model, we just kind of society accepts it in a way that they wouldn't if she looked like little prepubescent girl from Last of Us. And is that a problem?
Yeah. Okay. It's a true story. I was walking. I'm gonna tell you a true story. We're walking in downtown Rosarito, me and a dude I know, and he said, "Man, did you see all those hot girls?" And we walked by a Dairy Queen. There's like there's two American businesses here. There's a Dairy Queen and there's a Subway. And I was like, where? And he goes, over there at the Dairy Queen. I was like, oh, you mean those children? Because there's a high school over there, and they were in like high school uniforms. I was like, those are children. He's like, oh, I know one of them's got to be 18. I was like, but they're children. Like that's what do you like about children? So like they look like children.
Well, people will argue with you that if someone looks physically mature, then that's what really matters, you know, in terms of like who's like a pedophile or who's acting inappropriately, or what's the other word that people like to say that it's like you're attracted to?
Ephebophile.
Yeah, ephebophile. Okay.
Which is like teenagers.
But this is my issue, and I was trying to get into this a little bit with Robbie. Many of us experienced turning 12, 13, getting adult features and suddenly getting attention from men, unwanted attention from men. And what does it say? It feels like the standard for when you're allowed to be sexually attracted to someone is about how they look, even if it's legally about what age they are. And that dissonance is, I think, what we're really talking about here, where people basically think it's okay if someone, you know, it's not like wrong if they look like they're an adult, but the legal standards suggest that what we really care about as a society is somebody's mental maturity and their ability to consent. And obviously, I want to say again, this woman is 19. I don't want to undermine her, you know, ability to have self, you know, whatever, to
agency
consent
and all that.
Agency, exactly, and all of this. But certainly power dynamics, to your point, FD, and all of that. Leo's not just older, he's rich, he's famous, he can make or break careers. I read a story about all this where Misha Barton from the OC, apparently, and from Sixth Sense, was told at a party once when she was, you know, hot. You know, I mean, I don't mean like physically hot, I mean like big in Hollywood, you know, had a career going. Yeah. Hey, there's Leo over there at a party. You should date him. It will help your career. And she said, gross, I think he's too old. Isn't he like 30? She was 19, he was 30, and she thought he was too old for her at that point.
That's what I had to tell the dude. I was like, why do you think they want your old balls?
Patriarchy.
Well, but he honestly had no answer to that. And I was like, seriously, I was like, that's a child. Even if they were attracted to you for whatever reason, then what? You're probably going to get super jealous of them and be really controlled. None of that sounds like fun. There's nothing fun that can happen with dating a child.
Well, so here's the thing. Again, she's not a child. People are going to push back and say she's not a child. She's not a child. She's illegally an adult. And I just want to make that clear. But I think that the thing that we're all like responding to is it's basically obvious that what's attracting Leo to the situation is something that we personally don't respect, even if it's legal, which is wanting to have some degree of control, wanting to avoid maybe some pushback that you would get from an older woman, wanting someone who is potentially more submissive, etc. And he's allowed to want that. And if this is a mutually beneficial relationship, they're allowed to do that. But we're also allowed to have opinions about it.
I feel like when you're talking about the types of dudes to be you know, what's the quote from Fast Times, that was it
Ridgemont High?
Days of
about high school girls.
Days Confused. They say the same. I keep going. They say the same age.
Because the way that we socialize men is not even a lot of times connected to like finding women as partners to be like the goal of engaging. It's about women as a commodity with which to measure my manhood, right? So many men, like, they have to grow out of that. You know, when Jason was talking about that when he was in his early 20s, like that, I read all the Bell Hooks and R.G. Lord and all that shit. I didn't read that until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Like, until then, it was ass and titties. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's how we're conditioned. Some men never grow out of that. And it's not actually, and that's why, like, when I say it's physical, like, yes, but the pushback I was important, because if we make it only about physical, we kind of absolve the internalized patriarchal like decision-making process to say, I don't really care about the age of these girls. I know I can control them and get them to do what I want easier, which then makes me a bigger man. And that's what I'm really pursuing through these relationships.
So wasn't that a big age difference between what's his name? What's the superstar divorce that you people were all about for a while? Johnny
Eddie
Depp
Murphy?
and...
Amber Heard and
no, Eddie
was
Murphy.
there a big age difference between him and Nicole?
No, I think were relatively age peers, but then isn't he married now to a younger white woman? Not like she's not like 19. I think she's like was maybe in her 30s when they got married. 30s. But who are you talking about?
Something like that.
Amber Heard. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Yes. Yeah. Wasn't there a big age difference between those two?
I don't think it was that big, but let's look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
A good 10, 15 years.
I think it's bigger than
Amber
that.
Heard was born in 1986. She's a year younger than I am. Johnny Depp.
1948.
Yeah, Johnny Depp is old as fuck.
No. Johnny Depp was born in 1963, not 1948. Who said 1948?
I think you were joking.
1963. So I will say my mom was born in 1960. And so Johnny Depp is like 3 years younger than my mom, and I'm 1 year older than his ex-wife.
Like, I remember there was a big age discrepancy between them.
Yeah,
but all his women in his adult older years, there's been a big age discrepancy.
But that's a lot of them. That's why, like, when y'all motherfuckers you talk about dating white men, I'm like, y'all do that.
So what's the youngest? Let's close out on this. What's the youngest everybody would date?
Late 20s.
37.
Who said 37? Jason?
Me. I did.
Jesus. Okay, you're grandfathering me in now. Is that?
Marie, you gotta catch those.
It was 40 before, but now it lowered. Yeah.
I dated. I dated a 36-year-old woman here.
And how was that? She's grown.
Yeah, she's grown. It's just, it's just a little different.
How old are you, Jason? How old are you?
I'm 45.
Okay, I don't know why I thought I was the oldest person here.
I'm old as fuck.
I feel like, frankly, men mature less quickly than women. So that's already, you're at a disadvantage. But my feeling is that once you're basically 27, you're grown. I'm not saying I want to date a 27-year-old, but you're grown enough. You've been out of college or high school for a long time. You've had some jobs. You're grown enough. Yeah. You probably don't live at home. Like, you're grown enough. But ideally, like, if I were to be back on the apps again, I'm concerned about what it will be like for me if I end up back on the apps again at this big age and swiping. And I've been thinking about whether or not I should lie about my age.
We could have done this whole show on the things I hear from older women on the swipes. Woo.
Like what?
Woo. It's you've been through some shit if you're in your 40s. You've had great loves, you've had great heartaches, you've been divorced, you have had trauma. So everybody's got a real quick trigger finger to walk away. You can say the wrong thing. Oh, nope. You just like my ex-husband. That was this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? It's rough. And then if there's a fear of being alone, woo.
But you still keep coming back for more, Jason. You want it.
Glutton. I'm a glutton. This was my chance. I was like, Katie Halper, if she's single, I got to go back to New York anyway. Did
I come out as not single? I part of me feels like I should keep it a secret, but now it's.
I'm sorry.
Now that Jason's asking, Jason, by the way,
Jason's blowing shit up. Keep your personal life personal. Fuck that shit.
Okay, look, we got through this relatively unscathed. Hopefully, very few canceling. FD, I appreciate you for holding it down as the voice of reason. No wonder you're married. You're so mature and reasonable, and I'm rooting for you and your beautiful black wife and your children. I gotta say.
Yes. My dark skinned black wife. I just want to put that out there.
Just a million points for me for whatever.
She just make sure. Pull a picture up of her real quick. You can check out on my Instagram. Me and my black ass babies. One of them got locks like me.
I love this. This is the dream, FD. This is the dream.
I've never dated a white woman in my life.
You're a gold star.
Shade, Katie.
Look, I used to be able to say that, but then I got old, and I turned 35, and that's what was out there in the world. And so we'll see what ends up happening to me. But FD, tell the people where to find you on the internet, your YouTube channel, all of that.
You can find me. You can just Google FD Signifier. Google YouTube, search FD Signifier. You'll find me. At FD Signifier, spelled slightly differently on Instagram. And don't find me on Twitter because I'm doing less Twitter these days. Don't give me an excuse to go back. And
people should check out your latest video on
my latest
video. Left. Yeah. Is very germane to this audience's interest, and they should definitely go and watch.
And it's definitely going to be relevant when the aftermath of this video, as the narratives start being built about various.
FD, I was mad. I was like, why? I was a little hurt that I wasn't in this one. I haven't beefed with enough people on the left. I haven't been the target of enough ire.
I am, to be real, sensitive to the way that Black women are treated by the spaces that I occupy or I'm associated with. That's why I left it at the individual that was there and called it a day. Because if I dug too much, because my goal was to.
Who was the individual there?
Professor Flack. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Professor Flacco.
Just leave it alone. Okay, I'm trying to minimize.
Okay, but let me just tell you, FD, I can take the heat, and I know how the internet works. I believe that I don't get nearly enough credit for being, frankly, the queen of debate on the left. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put that out there. And I'm not getting my flowers. I'm not getting the respect that I deserve. Everybody debates me, and then they go off on Reddit and complain, oh, it's just not fair. My guy wasn't prepared. If he had prepared more, he would have done better than me. Oh, it's not fair. She's a lawyer. I didn't know she was a lawyer. She's been a lawyer for 15 years, but it doesn't matter.
It was pretty funny.
I would just like to be included going forward because you have a large YouTube presence, and I would like a little bit of that. That's all I'm saying. I can take the heat.
We will talk on my black leftist video, but I am retiring from any and all acknowledgement of folks that only stress me out and get on my nerves. So I will throw you in there and you can just scrap with all them motherfuckers.
I'm ready.
Much as you want.
I've been training. I'm ready. All right, Jason, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me at This Is Revolution Podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also on YouTube, where we live stream every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time for our Saturday free show, where we go for a lot longer, cover a lot more topics, and also a lot of us write on the show. And our in-show producer, MT Toussaint, has an article up in Sublation, Reimagining Black History Month. And I also have a new article up in Sublation asking the question, is the contemporary left a lifestyle brand?
That sounds like a must read. And I also appreciate that we have the same microphone cover today.
Yeah.
Katie, my favorite podcast co-host, partner in arms, hardest working woman on the left. Where can people find you on the internet?
Katie Halps on Twitter. That's letter K, letter T, HALPS. And then my show, the Katie Halper Show, you can find on SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts. I have to get it on more places, but those two, and Spotify. Then you can find my weekly show at 7 p.m. EST on youtube.com/The Katie Halper Show. Also patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And then there's Useful Idiots, which is youtube.com/Useful Idiots, or you can find the Useful Idiots podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And you can also get extra content at usefulidiots.substack.com.
Also, you guys, when you see these videos, these algorithms don't like us. Just if it comes across your timeline, just like it.
Just like it. Yeah, seriously.
Just subscribe. Just boost it. You don't have to put money on it, put money behind it, but even every little bit counts. And I will say you should find Olayemi Olurin at everywhere, including her Substack, Olurinati, like Olurinatti. Okay. And also you can find her on her new podcast, Leftist Mafia. She also sometimes is on The Hill. I love it when she is. You guys know where you can find Bad Faith Podcast. This is a free episode. We're giving you an embarrassment of riches, this 2-hour extravaganza. You can find an extra episode every week at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. Those Mondays launch on Monday. We just did an amazing episode with Norman Finkelstein that was 2.5 hours long, and you're definitely going to want to hear more than just the clip that we put on YouTube. Don't forget to follow Bad Faith YouTube, all of those things. I'll see you later tonight on Call In. As always, keep the faith.